What's up everyone, how are we doing? Big news from 67 Hail Hail is that at some stage over Thursday morning we crossed the 10,000 subscribers barrier. I genuinely want to say a huge thanks from me, from everyone else associated with the channel, to you guys and girls, any of you who have subscribed to the channel. I think a year ago at this stage we were on under 2,000 subs, so to get from that level and grow the channel to the stage where we're now at 5 figures is amazing. And you know, a year from now I just would love if the channel could just keep growing. I think 20,000 would be a realistic goal by the end of 2021, or maybe it should be 21,000 because of the year. But I'm not going to ask you to subscribe or anything today, because today is a day for celebration, not to do with Celtic, but to do with 67 Hail Hail. So I genuinely want to say a huge thanks to everyone who's helped the channel grow. Now, for today's video, things are still pretty gloomy at Celtic Park. Yes, we got a victory over Hamilton on Wednesday night, but it's done little to lift the doom and gloom. I'm going to be focusing on an element of Celtic this season that has frustrated me more than most, and it's actually not to do with on pitch. It's actually not really to do with the boardroom, although it kind of is. This is the media output of Celtic, which I think has left a lot to be desired this season, and that's what we're going to touch on today's video. Roll the new credit. Hope you liked that. Put a lot of effort into that yesterday. We've got an all green background. Everything is coming up green at the moment on 67 Hail Hail anyway. Now, for this video, I just want to make it clear right at the outset that this isn't designed as a dig at any of the media workers at Celtic. You know, I know some of the guys that work at the club, and they do what I think is a really good job the majority of the time. And at the end of the day, like anyone, like me, like anyone else in their job, they're following out orders from, you know, the people who are above them. This is more a comment on how outdated I think the head honchos at Celtic are in terms of, you know, designing their PR and their media, social media output. So just putting that out there. Neil Lennon made some interesting comments on Tuesday. He said, "I'm watching with interest how Liverpool are going this year. Liverpool are probably finding things a little bit difficult the way we have for some reason. It's difficult to put your finger on it." Now, with that in mind, I thought we could have a wee interesting look at today's video and compare Liverpool's social media output after a damaging defeat to Celtic's after the draw against Livingston last week. Now, I just need to say and just quash this daft claim made by Neil Lennon, this wild claim that Celtic are in some way comparable to Liverpool. Liverpool are going through a genuine mid-season blip at the moment. They've not won in 5 Premier League games. Celtic have been going from disaster to disaster since mid-October, you know, 3.5 months ago. There is no comparison for me between Liverpool and Celtic, but seeing as Neil Lennon has made it, let's do it for this video. Now, after our dismal 2-2 draw in West Lothian last Wednesday, Celtic posted the post-match interview with Neil Lennon, you know, that one when he did the daft thing with his teeth. That was obviously Wednesday evening. They then didn't tweet the whole of Thursday and didn't actually tweet the next thing until Friday afternoon, and I think that was an on this day post. Over the next 4 days, Celtic tweeted 10 times, and none of them were to do with the current first team. None of them addressed the malaise of the current first team. None of them suggested how we could get out of this run, anything like that. They were just on this day, happy birthdays, sadly a few deaths to announce as well, but nothing about current issues with Celtic in that 4-5 day period after the Livingston game. Then on Tuesday, we had Greg Taylor brought out, we had David Turnbull, and we got the usual, we will be better, we're going to turn this losing run or drawing run into a winning run. Just the usual unsubstantiated bile nonsense coming from the club. Now on to Liverpool, and they actually probably had an even more damaging result than us last midweek. On Thursday night, they lost at home for the first time in round about 4 years in the Premier League. They went down 1-0 at home to Burnley. A disastrous result for a team like Liverpool on its own, never mind on the back of a 4-game not winning run in the Premier League. Pretty dire straits for Liverpool. Right after the game, I think 25 minutes after full time, they had quotes from Jurgen Klopp on the club website and on the social media channels, taken from his press conference, dealing with issues, admitting that Liverpool haven't been good enough and addressing how they're going to come through this period with actual comments that mean something. The following day, they had more from Jurgen Klopp, where he actually went in depth on the fact that he felt he wasn't being clear enough with his instructions to his players. Now, that's the kind of stuff we would love to hear from our manager. Genuine, meaningful quotes on why things are going wrong, not just excuses. There was no excuses from Jurgen Klopp. Liverpool tweeted 25 times between full-time on Thursday night and kick-off on Sunday in their cup game at Old Trafford. They didn't go into silence. They didn't have full days without tweeting anything. They continued to address what was going wrong at the club, and they had genuine reasons and genuine thinking, grown up conversations on how they could get out of this run. They treated their fans with respect. They didn't try to brainwash their fans into thinking everything's okay. There was no mention of the fact that they won the Premier League for the first time in 30 years last year, or they won the Champions League the year before. There was no mention of that, no excuses from Jurgen Klopp. It was just an admission from him and the likes of James Milner that this hasn't been good enough at our club and this is how we're going to put it right. Take note, Celtic. There was no feeling sorry for themselves. Now, look at this quote that was posted on the Liverpool website from James Milner. He said, "The thing about football is you get no favours. No one is going to make it easier for you. It's down to us to pull ourselves out of this run we're in, and it comes down to our responsibility and our shoulders." Right, Neil Lennon on Celtic's channels prior to the game against Hamilton. "We've had a good week's training and we are very much looking forward to the game." Just compare those two quotes in terms of actual meaningful comments. Now, in defence of the actual Celtic social media team, they can only work with what they're given, and Jurgen Klopp is an infinitely better manager than Neil Lennon. He has an idea why things are going wrong. I actually don't think Neil Lennon does, other than maybe thinking about switching the wingers or changing his goalkeepers around or blaming the Scottish government. Klopp actually had an idea for why things are going wrong, and the Liverpool social media channels could reflect that. Celtic social media channels can only reflect what they're hearing from Neil Lennon. I also realise that it's a bit of a no-win situation for Celtic. Anything they tweet at the moment will be ratioed by fans who only want to see one statement from the club, and that is announcing the termination of Neil Lennon's contract. I get that as well. But for Celtic just not to tweet the whole of last Thursday and just to, go into firefighting mode and just almost hope as if this will all just go away is just such an outdated method. We need modern thinking. We need the leaders of Celtic, the likes of Peter Law, Dermot Desmond, and the head of the media and PR departments to come into the 21st century and look at a proper big club like Liverpool and look at the way that they deal with disappointment. And I know that Liverpool's situation is nowhere near as bleak as ours. They're not calling for Jurgen Klopp to go. I get all that. But in terms of how they dealt with that Burnley defeat on the back of 3 or 4 other really disappointing results and not scoring in all those games was just so different to how Celtic dealt with it. Celtic's reaction was just to go silent and not post anything, to post a few happy birthdays, which just seems totally bizarre, and then to carry on leading up to the Hamilton game as if nothing's wrong. Just, we're going to put this right. We can still win the league. There needs to be an admission from Celtic that the league is gone. And you might be watching this thinking, why would Celtic admit that they've lost the league? Because it would allow us to plan for the future. We are not winning the league this season. It is so far gone now. We need the club to come out and admit that they have got this season badly wrong, to take a bit of responsibility for what they have done this season, and to put a plan into place for how we can put that right next season. We need change at the club. We need the manager out. We need something to look forward to between now and the rest of the season, because if you think Hamilton was bleak and dull last night, then we have got 10 or 15 more of those games for the rest of this season. We need a change in every department virtually at Celtic, bar the foundation probably, who still do a good job. And, you may think I'm nitpicking and it's small fry talking about the social media output and it's irrelevant to what happens on the pitch, but it is symptomatic of the malaise around the club and the lack of respect the club has for the paying customers, the supporters, of course. And it all has to change. They all have to come into the 21st century like a proper big club like Liverpool have.